Supreme Raider Veltak ran one serrated claw across his command console, compound eyes reflecting the soft glow of tactical displays. The neural interface embedded in his thorax fed him constant updates about the prey they stalked. A battered human cargo vessel wallowing through space like a wounded animal. Scans confirm. Supreme One, his sensor officer chittered. Minimal crew presence. 6 biosignatures, all human. Their engine core shows significant degradation patterns. Cargo holds are filled with refined minerals from their home system, platinum, rare earths, and processed thorium. Veltak's mandibles clicked in pleasure. After 3 decades of raiding the space lanes, he'd learned to trust his instincts. This target practically screamed easy prey. His fleet of 12 ships had been hunting along the Perseus Arm for weeks, searching for a score big enough to cement his reputation among the Krozik clans. Now fortune had delivered exactly what he needed. "Show me the vessel," he commanded. The main view screen flickered to life, displaying their quarry in all its dilapidated glory. The human ship was a blocky, ungainful thing, its hull marked by impact scarring and radiation burns. Patches of rust spread across its surface like bacterial colonies. Several of its maneuvering thrusters fired irregularly, causing the ship to yaw slightly to port every few minutes. "Name registry?" Veltak asked, mandibles twitching in amusement at the vessel's sorry state. "HMS Honeypot," his communications officer responded. Referenced in human shipping databases as a Class C mineral transport. 15 years old, minimal retrofitting. Their transponder codes check out against official records. Veltak's secondary hearts quickened with anticipation. Everything about this target felt right. The humans had a reputation for being dangerous prey. Their ships were usually well armed, their crews remarkably creative in combat. But this ancient hauler was clearly on its last legs, crewed by the bare minimum needed to keep it running. The cargo alone would buy him enough influence to challenge for the position of fleet master. "Deploy the fleet in standard hunting formation," he ordered. "Groups of 3, approach vectors calculated to prevent their escape. Though looking at those engines, I doubt they could run if they wanted to." His bridge crew clicked and chittered in amusement as they relayed his commands. The Krozik ships moved with practiced precision, their crystalline hulls catching starlight as they spread out to encircle their prey. Veltak had performed this maneuver countless times. The target would soon realize they were trapped, and then the real fun would begin. "Something odd, Supreme One," his sensor officer interrupted. "The crew's biosignatures. They're remarkably calm for humans about to be raided." Veltak waved a claw dismissively. Probably too inexperienced to recognize the danger. Or perhaps they're paralyzed with fear. It matters little. Still, something tickled at the back of his mind. In all his years of raiding, he'd never encountered human crew that didn't show at least some elevation in vital signs when threatened. Even veteran crews experienced spikes in adrenaline and heart rate when they realized they were under attack. He pushed the thought aside. The opportunity was too perfect to waste on paranoid speculation. His fleet had the numbers, the firepower, and the tactical advantage. What could 6 humans and a broken-down freighter possibly do against 12 state-of-the-art Krozik warships? "Prepare boarding tubes," he commanded. "I want that cargo hold secured before they have time to space the minerals. Signal the fleet. Any crew that surrenders immediately will be treated with mercy. Those who resist." He let his mandibles click together meaningfully. As his ships closed the final distance to their target, Veltak settled back in his command chair, already imagining how he would spend his share of the spoils. The human vessel grew larger in his view screen, waiting like a helpless larva about to be devoured. He never noticed that the rust patterns on the ship's hull formed suspiciously regular geometric patterns, or that the radiation burns somehow avoided every critical system. The Supreme Raider was about to learn why the smartest pirates in known space gave human shipping lanes a wide berth. The bridge of the HMS Honeypot was silent except for the soft clink of Captain Sarah Chen's coffee mug against its saucer. She watched the tactical display with measured interest as 12 crystalline ships arranged themselves in a classic encirclement pattern. Her crew maintained their positions, each one focused on their stations with practiced calm. "They're scanning us again, Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from the sensor station. "Seventh detailed sweep in the last 10 minutes. They're being thorough. I'll give them that." Chen took another sip of her coffee, savoring the rich aroma. Real Earth beans were a luxury out here on the frontier, but this mission rated the good stuff. And our sensor masks are holding. Like a charm. As far as they can tell, we're just 6 terrified humans aboard a broken-down rust bucket. Rodriguez grinned. The countermeasures are feeding them exactly what they expect to see. Should we start showing elevated heart rates yet? Not yet. Chen set down her cup. Let's maintain our cool a little longer. It'll unsettle them more than if we panic. Pirates expect fear. It's the calm ones that make them nervous. The massive view screen showed the lead pirate vessel, its crystalline structure refracting starlight in ways that would have been beautiful under other circumstances. Chen had studied the Krozik extensively during her preparation for this mission. Their ships were technological marvels, but they had one critical weakness, an almost pathological need to assert dominance over their prey. Right on cue, the communications panel chimed. "They're hailing us, Captain," Operations Officer Park announced. "Want to bet it's a surrender demand." Chen smoothed her uniform and checked her reflection in a nearby monitor. "Put them through. Let's give our guests a proper welcome." The screen flickered, revealing a Krozik bridge that seemed designed to intimidate. The alien commander's carapace gleamed with metallic inlays denoting high rank, his compound eyes reflecting the light of dozens of displays. "Human vessel," the translator rendered his clicks and chirps into standard English. "You are surrounded by the fleet of Supreme Raider Valtak. Your obsolete weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Surrender your cargo and crew immediately, and you will be treated with mercy." Chen examined her nails with theatrical disinterest. "Supreme Raider Valtak. I'm afraid I haven't heard of you. I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the HMS Honeypot. We're experiencing some engine trouble, as you've no doubt noticed. Would you happen to be offering assistance?" The alien's mandibles clicked in what Chen recognized as frustration. Pirates hated when their intimidation tactics failed to generate the expected fear response. "Do not play games, human," Valtak growled. "Our scans show your holds full of valuable minerals. Surrender now, or we will take them by force." "Oh, those minerals." Chen smiled pleasantly. "I suppose you'll be wanting them. Well, if you insist on playing pirate, you'll have to come and get them. We're certainly in no position to stop you, are we?" She could practically see the confusion and suspicion warring in the Krozik commander's posture. Everything his sensors told him suggested an easy target, but the crew's behavior wasn't matching the expected pattern. "You invite us to board." Valtak's translator rendered his tone somewhere between bewildered and angry. "Would it matter if I didn't?" Chen shrugged. "You have 12 warships. We're just a poor cargo hauler. Though I should warn you." She leaned forward, dropping her voice conspiratorially. "The coffee maker in the crew lounge is temperamental. Wouldn't want your boarding parties to get scalded." The communication cut off abruptly. Chen's smile widened as she watched the pirate fleet begin extending their boarding tubes. "All hands," she announced shipwide. "Prepare for company. Remember, let them get nice and comfortable before we spring the trap. Lieutenant Rodriguez, begin recording. Fleet Command will want footage of this for the training academies." The deck hummed almost imperceptibly as the honeypot's true systems powered up beneath their masking fields. Around the bridge, her crew's expressions shifted from practiced boredom to focused anticipation. "They're latching on, Captain," Park reported. "All boarding tubes are extending." Chen finished her coffee and set the cup aside with deliberate care. "Excellent. Let's show these pirates why they should have paid attention to those warnings about human shipping lanes." A dozen boarding tubes sealed against the honeypot's hull with simultaneous thunks that reverberated through the ship's superstructure. Veltak watched through the video feed as his boarding parties assembled, their powered armor gleaming in the harsh light of the access corridors. "Breach teams report ready, Supreme One," his tactical officer announced. "Hull analysis suggests minimal resistance at the contact points. We should have access to their cargo holds within." The tactical officer never finished his sentence. Without warning, massive electromagnetic clamps emerged from what had appeared to be rust-streaked hull plates, locking each boarding tube in place with irresistible force. The crystalline ship's engines flared as their pilots attempted to break free, but the clamps held fast. "What trickery is this?" Veltak demanded, his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. "Get us free. Now." But the surprises were only beginning. Across the honeypot's hull, sections began to shift and transform. What had seemed like random patterns of corrosion and battle damage rearranged themselves into precise geometric formations. Panels slid aside, revealing rows of pristine weapon ports. The ship's entire outer layer had been a carefully crafted disguise. Captain Chen's voice came through their comms, no longer casual but razor-sharp with authority. "Attention Krozik vessels. You are now locked in position and targeted by 36 Mark VI plasma cannons. Your boarding tubes have been magnetically sealed to our hull, and your shields are currently being systematically disrupted by frequencies we gathered during your own scans of our vessel. I suggest you order your boarding parties to drop their weapons." On his tactical display, Veltak watched in horror as his ship's shield frequencies were picked apart one by one. Each scan they performed of the seemingly helpless freighter had given the humans exactly what they needed to counter their defenses. "Impossible," he chittered. The crew readings. As if in response to his protest, sensor masks throughout the honeypot deactivated. Where there had been 6 life signs, now dozens appeared. The cargo holds that had registered as full of minerals revealed themselves to be packed with military-grade power systems and weapons. "Boarding parties report resistance," his tactical officer shrieked. "The humans. They're everywhere." Through the video feeds, Veltak watched as sections of corridor that had appeared empty suddenly shimmered, revealing Special Space Service operators in full combat gear. They moved with practiced precision, using angles and cover that suggested intimate knowledge of both the ship's layout and Krozik tactical doctrine. "Fall back," Veltak ordered. "Return to the ships." "Negative, Supreme One. The boarding tubes have been sealed from both ends. We're trapped." On his command screen, damage reports began flooding in from every vessel in his fleet. The honeypot's weapons were surgically precise, targeting engines and weapon systems with devastating accuracy. Each shot seemed calculated to disable rather than destroy. They weren't just springing a trap, they were making an example of his fleet. "Supreme Raider Veltak." Chen's voice cut through the chaos again. "Your ships are disabled. Your boarding parties are contained. The next few minutes will determine whether this becomes a salvage operation or a rescue mission. Choose carefully." Veltak's pride warred with his survival instinct as he watched his mighty fleet helplessly confined by what he had dismissed as prey. Everything about the honeypot had been crafted to draw them in. Every scan, every reading, every apparent weakness had been a carefully laid deception. "Status report," he demanded. "Shields at 20% and failing. Weapon systems unresponsive. Engines offline. The humans are using our own boarding tubes as conduits to bypass our remaining defenses. They're inside our ships, Supreme One." Through the command carrier's internal cameras, Veltak watched as panels he had thought solid slid aside, revealing human operators who had somehow infiltrated during the chaos. They moved like ghosts, neutralizing his crew with practiced efficiency. The last thing he saw before a stun blast took him was Captain Chen's face on his view screen, her earlier casual demeanor replaced by the cold satisfaction of a predator whose trap had sprung perfectly. Captain Chen walked through the captured Krozik command carrier's bridge, her boots clicking against the crystalline deck plates. Veltak lay slumped in his command chair, unconscious but securely restrained. Around her, SSS operators were systematically downloading the ship's databases while engineering teams studied its systems. "Quite a sophisticated vessel," Lieutenant Rodriguez remarked, running his scanner over a bank of neural interfaces. "Almost seems a shame they wasted it on piracy." "Status report," Chen ordered, pausing to examine a piece of navigation equipment she'd never seen before. "All 12 ships secured, Captain. 23 pirates dead, mostly those who resisted too aggressively. 89 captured, including our friend here." Rodriguez nodded toward Valtak. "Minimal casualties on our side. 3 operators with minor plasma burns. Medicals already treated them." Chen allowed herself a small smile. The operation had gone even more smoothly than expected. 6 months of planning, 3 months of lying in wait along known pirate routes, and countless hours spent perfecting their sensor masking technology had paid off perfectly. "Captain," Park's voice came through her comm, "you're going to want to see what we found in their tactical database. Transmitting to your pad now." Chen pulled out her datapad, eyes widening as she scrolled through the information. The Krozik had been collecting data on human shipping patterns for years, trying to identify vessels vulnerable enough to attack. What caught her attention was a series of incident reports, previous encounters with human vessels that had turned out to be more than they appeared. "They knew," she murmured. "They knew about other trap ships, and they still fell for ours." "Overconfidence," Rodriguez suggested. "Plus, we had better tech than the previous attempts. Those sensor masks are something else. R&D really outdid themselves." Chen continued reading, fascinated by the pirates' analysis of human military doctrine. They recognized humanity's talent for deception and warfare, but consistently underestimated it. Their reports dismissed previous losses to disguised vessels as flukes or attributed them to luck rather than skill. A groan from the command chair interrupted her reading. Valtak was regaining consciousness, his compound eyes flickering as they adjusted to the changed situation. "Welcome back, Supreme Raider," Chen said, tucking away her pad. "I trust the stun blast wasn't too unpleasant." The alien commander's mandibles clicked weakly. How did you mask so many crew?" "Our scanners are the finest in known space." "That's the interesting thing about humans," Chen replied, leaning against a nearby console. "We've spent our entire history learning to hide our strengths. While other species focus on building bigger ships and stronger weapons, we perfected the art of appearing harmless until it's too late." She gestured to one of her operators, who projected a hologram of the honeypot's true specifications. Valtak's antennae twitched as he took in the layers of deception built into the vessel's design. "Every scan you performed gave us more data about your shields. Every time you analyzed our rust damage, you were actually giving us targeting solutions for your weak points. Even your boarding tubes work to our advantage. They're now part of our ship's superstructure, giving us direct access to your vessels." "Why show me this?" Valtak demanded. Chen's expression hardened. "Because you're going to live to tell others. Your ship's database is already helping us identify dozens of pirate bases and criminal networks. But the real message we want to spread is about human ingenuity. Every seemingly weak vessel in our space could be another trap. Every vulnerable target might be hiding teeth." She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and that cargo hold full of valuable minerals you detected. Those were actually antimatter containment chambers. If you had somehow managed to breach them." She left the implications hanging in the air. As Chen walked off the bridge, she activated her ship-wide comm. "All teams, prepare for Phase 2. Let's show our guests why humans have a reputation for thorough mission planning." Behind her, Valtak slumped in his restraints, finally understanding why the most experienced pirates in the galaxy gave human space such a wide berth. Not every Krozik pirate received the message about surrender. Deep within the crystalline warren of Valtak's secondary assault ship, a cluster of warriors decided to demonstrate why their species had once been apex predators on their homeworld. "We will not be captured by soft-skinned prey," Sub-Commander Krastil announced, his carapace bristling with combat augments. Around him, 24 of his best fighters readied their weapons. If we reach the engine core, we can overload it. Better to die fighting than live with defeat. They moved through the ship's corridors with practiced coordination, their chitinous armor clicking against the deck plates. The human boarders had been thorough in their initial sweep, but they hadn't found the secret maintenance tunnels that ran through the ship's superstructure. What the Krasic warriors didn't realize was that they were being watched. In the honeypot's command center, Captain Chen tracked their movement through multiple sensor feeds. Interesting, she mused, watching the heat signatures move through the walls. They're using maintenance corridors we hadn't mapped yet. Clever. She tapped her comm. Team Alpha, we have holdouts moving through the secondary assault ship's infrastructure. They're heading for the engine core. Copy that, Captain, came the response. Want us to intercept? Negative. Let's use this as an object lesson. Initiate Protocol Labyrinth. Throughout the assault ship, subtle changes began taking place. Gravity plating activated and deactivated in careful sequences. Environmental systems adjusted temperature and pressure in different sections. Maintenance robots, reprogrammed by the human engineers, began moving through their own network of tunnels. Krastil's team emerged from an access panel into what should have been a straight path to engineering. Instead, they found themselves in a shifting maze of altered gravity fields and moving barriers. What sorcery is this? One warrior chittered as he found himself walking on what had been a wall moments before. Another section of the corridor experienced a localized gravity reversal, sending unprepared pirates tumbling upward. They're manipulating the ship's systems, Krastil realized too late. Fall back. But retreat was no longer an option. The maintenance tunnels they used had been sealed off by repurposed cargo loaders, now serving as makeshift bulkheads. Every route they tried led them further from their goal, herding them through a carefully orchestrated sequence of environmental hazards. Magnificent, isn't it? Chen's voice came through the ship's comm system. We humans learned long ago that the best way to defeat an enemy is to turn their own environment against them. Your ship's systems are now our weapons. As if to demonstrate her point, a squad of maintenance robots emerged from concealed ports. The simple machines had been reprogrammed into mobile weapons platforms, their repair tools now serving as impromptu arms. Even your own service units reject you, Chen continued. That's another human specialty. We see the potential for weaponry in everything. A cargo loader becomes a barricade. A cleaning bot becomes a combat drone. Your own gravity plating becomes our maze. Krastil watched his warriors falling one by one, not to direct combat, but to an environment that had been turned utterly against them. The humans had transformed the entire ship into a weapon. What are you? He demanded over the comm. We're the species that survived countless wars by learning to use everything at our disposal, Chen replied. Your kind evolved natural weapons, claws, carapaces, combat instincts. We evolved the ability to turn anything into a weapon. Even this conversation is serving our purposes. Krastil suddenly realized she was right. While they'd been talking, the last of his warriors had been cornered and subdued. He stood alone in a corridor that had become a trap, surrounded by repurposed maintenance units and shifting gravity fields. Surrender, Chen suggested, and learn why the greatest virtue in combat isn't strength or speed, but adaptability. The sub-commander looked at his fallen warriors, victims not of superior firepower but of superior ingenuity, and made his choice. Sometimes, he realized, the most valuable victory was surviving to learn from defeat. In the captured fleet's central database core, Valtak sat unrestrained but heavily guarded, his compound eyes fixed on the holographic displays surrounding him. Captain Chen had ordered him to review his own archival footage of previous encounters with human vessels. Each recording told a similar story, pirates finding what appeared to be easy prey, only to discover they'd made a fatal mistake. This one, Chen said, gesturing to a particular recording, was from 3 cycles ago. The Lucky Wanderer looked like a private yacht that had strayed off course turned out to be carrying a full squad of Marine specialists. Veltak's mandibles clicked in recognition. I lost 2 good raid captains to that encounter. We thought it was an isolated incident. And this one. Chen brought up another recording. The Broken Arrow seemed to be a disabled colony ship. Your raiders found out it was actually testing a new type of defensive shield technology. You planned these traps, Veltak realized. Each one different, each one designed to reveal new tactics while concealing others. His antennae twitched with growing understanding. How many of our successful raids were actually successful? How many ships did we take that were letting us take them? Chen smiled. Now you're asking the right questions. Computer, access historical file T1942. The holograms shifted to show ancient images from Earth's oceans, wooden ships with concealed gun ports, deliberately weathered vessels hiding powerful weapons, cargo ships with false hulls. Q ships, Chen explained. Heavily armed military vessels disguised as merchant ships. We used them to hunt submarines in our world wars. The strategy was so successful that we took it to the stars. She gestured at the surrounding database core. Your own records show how well it worked. Every time pirates thought they'd figured out our patterns, we changed them. Veltak studied the historical footage with growing fascination. These wooden vessels, they're from before your space age. You've been perfecting this strategy for that long. Longer, Chen corrected. Deception in warfare is as old as humanity itself. The famous human writer Sun Tzu said, all warfare is based on deception over 3,000 years ago. We've been improving on the concept ever since. She brought up more recent footage, the honeypot's own successful operations against other pirate groups. Every encounter taught us something new. We learned to mask our energy signatures, to hide our true crew complement, to disguise our weapons. Each victory gave us more data about pirate tactics and technology. And now you have our complete database, Veltak noted grimly. Exactly. Chen highlighted sections of the captured data. Every pirate base, every criminal contact, every secret route and hidden dock. But more importantly, we have your tactical databases, how you select targets, how you analyze ships for weaknesses, how you plan your attacks. She turned to face the captured pirate leader directly, which means we can make our next generation of trap ships even more convincing. Every time you think you've identified a pattern, it will change. Every time you think you found a true weakness, it will be a carefully crafted illusion. Veltak's pride warred with his growing respect for human ingenuity. Why tell me all this? Why show me these records? Because you're going to help spread the word, Chen replied. When we release you, and yes, we will release you, you'll tell others what you've learned. About how humans don't just build traps, we perfect them over centuries. About how our greatest weapons aren't our guns or our ships, but our ability to make our enemies defeat themselves. She shut down the holographic displays with a gesture. The honeypot wasn't just designed to catch pirates, Veltak. It was designed to make pirates question every target, doubt every scan, and think twice before attacking any human vessel. Because the next helpless freighter might be exactly what it appears to be. Or it might be another trap, Veltak finished, finally understanding the true depth of humanity's strategy. One we won't even see coming until it's too late. The honeypot's mess hall had been temporarily converted into a processing center for the captured pirates. Lieutenant Rodriguez watched through the observation window as medical teams treated injured Krozik, while intelligence officers conducted preliminary interviews. Captain Chen stood beside him, reviewing the day's reports on her datavat. They're taking it better than expected, Rodriguez noted, especially after Sub-Commander Krastil told them about his experience with our environmental warfare tactics. Fear and respect often look similar, Chen replied, not looking up from her pad. But it's what they're saying during the interviews that interests me. Play interview log 47. Rodriguez pulled up the requested footage on the Windows display overlay. A younger Krozik warrior was speaking to an intelligence officer, his mandibles moving agitatedly. We had heard stories, of course, warnings from the older raiders about human vessels that weren't what they seemed, but we thought they were just tales to frighten newcomers. Ghost stories told over too much fermented nectar. Chen paused the playback. They knew. They all knew, but they convinced themselves the stories weren't true. Pride is a powerful blinder. Speaking of pride, Rodriguez gestured toward a particular group of pirates. Valtak's senior officers are requesting a meeting with you. Something about discussing terms of honorable surrender. Chen finally looked up from her pad, a slight smile playing at her corners of her mouth. Honorable surrender. After they tried to raid what they thought was a helpless cargo ship. She shook her head. Still, I'll hear them out. It might be enlightening. The senior officers had been gathered in the ship's conference room. As Chen entered, she noted their postures, less defeated than contemplative. These weren't warriors nursing wounded pride. These were professionals who had learned a costly but valuable lesson. Captain, the highest-ranking officer began, we have studied combat doctrine from 100 species. All of them focus on displaying strength, on making their military power obvious to deter attacks. But not humans, another officer chittered. You hide your strength. You make your most dangerous vessels look vulnerable. It defies all conventional military logic. Chen took a seat at the head of the conference table. Does it? Consider this. What's more effective? A warning sign that says danger or uncertainty about whether danger exists at all. The pirates exchanged glances with their compound eyes. You're creating doubt, the first officer realized. Not just about whether a ship is trapped, but about whether any human ship is safe to attack. Exactly. Chen activated the table's holographic display, showing a map of human space. Every successful trap ship operation doesn't just capture pirates. It creates a story. Those stories spread. They grow. They make pirates hesitate. And in combat, hesitation means death. The officers finished in near unison, quoting an old Krasic military maxim. More importantly, Chen continued, it means protection for actual civilian vessels. When pirates can't tell the difference between a genuine freighter and a military trap, they're less likely to risk attacking either. She stood, pacing slowly around the table. Your species evolved to be perfect warriors. You have natural weapons, armor, combat instincts. But humans, we evolved to be perfect survivors. We learned to turn weakness into strength, to make our enemies' confidence into a weapon we could use against them. The senior officers absorbed this in silence, their antennae twitching with new understanding. Finally, one spoke. The rumors say some human ships actually broadcast false distress signals to attract pirates, that they deliberately appear damaged or vulnerable. Chen's smile widened slightly. Do they? Interesting theory. Of course, I couldn't confirm or deny such tactics. Just like I can't tell you how many other trap ships are operating in this sector right now, or what they might look like. She let that sink in before continuing. Now about those terms of surrender you wanted to discuss. The pirates had come seeking to negotiate from what little position of strength they had left. Instead, they found themselves receiving another lesson in human tactical thinking. Sometimes the most effective weapon wasn't the trap itself, but the fear of where the next trap might be hidden. 3 months after the honeypot operation, Captain Chen stood before the Interstellar Defense Council, presenting her final report. The chamber's holographic displays showed statistics that made even the most stoic council members lean forward in their seats. Pirate activity in human-controlled space has dropped 68%, Chen announced, highlighting the relevant data. More significantly, attacks on actual civilian vessels have decreased by 82%. The psychological impact of the operation has exceeded our most optimistic projections. And the released prisoners? Counselor Abbas asked, stroking his beard thoughtfully. Have they played their part as expected? Chen nodded, bringing up new data streams. Valtak and his officers have become our most effective deterrent. Their accounts of the honeypot operation have spread through criminal networks faster than we could have managed through official channels. The rumor mill is working in our favor for once. The displays shifted to show intercepts from pirate communications. Stories about the honeypot had grown in the telling, becoming almost mythical. Some claimed the ship could change its entire configuration in seconds. Others swore it could duplicate itself, creating phantom vessels to confuse attackers. The truth had become entangled with fiction, making every potential target even more uncertain. But the most interesting development, Chen continued, has been the emergence of what we're calling the honeypot effect. Pirates are now reporting false positives, seeing trap ships where none exist. Last week, a raider fleet fled from a genuine civilian freighter because its hull markings vaguely resembled ours. Counselor Zhang raised an elegant eyebrow. They're defeating themselves with their own paranoia. Exactly. Chen brought up footage from recent merchant ship encounters with pirate vessels. They're so afraid of falling into another trap that they're seeing deception everywhere. Every damaged ship could be bait. Every vulnerable vessel might be hiding teeth. The council chamber filled with appreciative murmurs. This was psychological warfare at its finest, using the enemy's imagination as a weapon against them. And Valtak himself? Counselor Abbas inquired. Chen's lips curved in a satisfied smile. Operating exactly as predicted. He's established himself as a security consultant, warning other raiders about the dangers of human space. His reputation gives weight to the stories. Every time he convinces a pirate fleet to avoid our shipping lanes, his business grows. Converting a pirate leader into an unwitting defensive asset, Zhang mused. Elegant. But what of the future? A voice called from the back of the chamber. Admiral Hassan, architect of the original trap ship program, stepped into the light. They'll adapt. They always do. They already are, Chen agreed, which is why the honeypot was never meant to be a single solution. It's part of an evolving strategy. She gestured, and the displays showed designs for new vessels. Each trap ship will be different. Each operation will reveal new capabilities while hiding others. The uncertainty is our true weapon. The Admiral nodded approvingly. And civilian ships are being subtly modified to display certain characteristics of our trap ships, Chen revealed. Nothing obvious, just enough to make raiders wonder. In time, the distinction between predator and prey will become so blurred that attacking any human vessel will be seen as too great a risk. The council chamber erupted in applause. Chen waited for it to die down before delivering her final point. The honeypot taught our enemies that humans don't just build traps. We turn their own psychology against them. Every story they tell, every rumor they spread, every moment they hesitate before attacking makes our space a little safer. She looked up at the gathered leaders, her expression serious. We've given the pirates something more dangerous than a fleet of warships. We've given them doubt. And in the dark between the stars, doubt kills more efficiently than any weapon we could devise. As the council moved to officially close the operation, Chen's pad chimed with a message from the honeypot. Her ship was ready for its next mission. Its hull newly scared, its systems carefully masked to appear vulnerable. Somewhere out there, pirates were watching human shipping lanes, trying to separate truth from deception, never knowing that their uncertainty was the greatest trap of all.